Hello, and welcome to my in-depth guide to the Alloy Mechatron King Pom Pom boss in Honkai Star Rail that debuted in the 4.1 story. I'll be going over attacks, mechanics, some general tips, and characters that may be noteworthy for the fight. I will also attempt to explain its general attack patterns and behaviors based on my observations, but these can be much more tedious and difficult to determine, and some of this information may not even be useful. A summary for the fight itself is included, and I'll leave timestamps in the description. As of the time of uploading, this boss is in the Memory of Chaos 4.2 rotation, and while ideally a guide would be applicable across all iterations, the changing memory turbulence effect can affect character performances to varying degrees compared to if the boss was fought in a vacuum. Future iterations may also have different numbers, but are unlikely to change mechanically. If you are watching this for a rotation after 4.2, check the comments to see if I've made any additional comments or clarifications. Starting with an overview of the boss's attributes, King Pom Pom has two phases, a weakness to fire, lightning, and imaginary damage, and the standard 20% resistance to physical, ice, wind, and quantum damage. It has one toughness bar of 240. As part of the main gimmick of the encounter, Alloy Pommies will periodically be summoned. They have a weakness to fire, lightning, and imaginary damage, a standard 20% resistance to physical, ice, wind, and quantum damage, and 60 toughness each. I will refer to these simply as Pommies for brevity. With the general enemy attributes out of the way, let's move on to the attacks, mechanics, and patterns, starting with the main gimmick of the fight. King Pom Pom's presence adds Venue Protocol Enforcer to the action order, which takes its turn about every 64 action value. Every time Venue Protocol Enforcer takes action, it summons one allied Pommy and two for the enemies. Only one allied Pommy can exist at a time, but it cannot be targeted by either side, so Venue Protocol Enforcer functionally only summons two enemy Pommies every time past the first. The allied Pommy takes its turn about every 69 action value and can normally only use a standard quantum damage attack against a single target of your choosing, which also provides 5 punchline. It has a talent that lets it accumulate 1 point of charge whenever allies gain 1 punchline. At 20 charges, it immediately gains an extra turn and consumes 20 points of charge for an enhanced basic attack that deals a small percentage of the target's max HP as true damage, and removes 1 stack of lasting anti-back from the target if applicable. Lasting anti-back itself is a damage reduction buff exclusive to King Pom Pom. On to the enemies, starting with the Alloy Pommies. They have 2 attacks, the first of which is a standard single target attack, and the second of which is a single target attack that reduces the target's defense by 50% for 2 turns. Any given Pommy will alternate between these 2 attacks. When defeated, allies gain 5 punchline. Now for Alloy Mechatron King Pom Pom itself. It always gets an extra turn when its normal turn arrives on the action order. Upon reaching its first turn, it will use a standard single target attack followed by entering the Steam Wash state, which increases its damage dealt by 30% and grants itself 2 stacks of lasting anti-back. In Phase 1, each stack of lasting anti-back provides 30% damage reduction, and removing all stacks of lasting anti-back via allied Pommy causes King Pom Pom to exit Steam Wash state and take 10% max HP damage. After its first turn enhancement, throughout the rest of Phase 1, King Pom Pom will only use the aforementioned single target attack, followed by an AoE attack on its extra turns. This AoE attack provides the team 3 punchline every time it is used. Upon entering the second phase, King Pom Pom fully advances and immediately enters the Steam Wash state, even if it has not actually reached its turn yet. Phase 2 Steam Wash state works the same as in Phase 1, the only difference being that each stack of lasting anti-back provides 45% damage reduction instead of 30%. Throughout Phase 2, King Pom Pom operates on a 3-turn rotation. It will start with an AoE attack for minor damage that applies the Work as Bliss effect to all targets for 1 turn and also provides 2 punchline. Work as Bliss allows the unit to either deal 2% max HP damage and gain 5 punchline after using a basic attack, or recover 1 SP if using skill. King Pom Pom will then use the AoE attack seen in Phase 1 for its extra turn. Targetable Memo Sprites do gain Work as Bliss, but their abilities are classified as Memo Sprite skills, so the effect does nothing with them. For the second turn in the rotation, King Pom Pom will use the same AoE attack seen in Phase 1, then on its extra turn follow up by entering the Raring to Go state. This provides the Weakness Protected effect and can otherwise be seen as a standard charging state. For the last turn in the rotation, King Pom Pom will deal a large amount of AoE damage and grant the team 5 punchline, then follow up with the standard single target attack seen in Phase 1 for its extra turn. Here's a summary if you don't care about all of the details. King Pom Pom's presence adds Venue Protocol Enforcer to the action bar, which will summon 2 enemy Pommies for every one of its turns, and you get one of your own Pommies. Enemy Pommies can reduce a target unit's defense and provide the team punchline when defeated. The allied Pommy grants the team punchline on its basic attack, and it gains charge whenever the team gains punchline. With enough charge, it consumes them to remove stacks of King Pom Pom's defense buffs, if targeted. In Phase 1, King Pom Pom only uses a standard single target attack and an AoE attack that grants the team punchline. In Phase 2, King Pom Pom adds 2 additional attacks, the first of which is a weak AoE attack that allows units to gain punchline on basic attack or recover SP on skill. The second attack is an AoE nuke following a charging state. In both phases, King Pom Pom will enhance itself once at the start, granting it a few stacks of a defense buff that can only be removed by the allied Pommy's enhanced basic attack. While any of these stacks persist, the boss also gains a damage buff. With that out of the way, let's move on to some gameplay tips. All of the ones I've got relate to managing punchline generation to force King Pom Pom out of Steamwash state. So, starting with the obvious one, you want to get as much punchline as quickly as possible in the beginning of each phase. Unfortunately, for non-elation teams, in Phase 1, this does mean you will have to wait for the Venue Protocol Enforcer to summon Pommies twice just to remove the first stack of the defense buffs, and then one more time for the second stack. It's similar to how you are forced to wait for enemy spawns in the Lygus boss in order to make him switch forms if you didn't bring Castris or Evernight. This eats up a lot of action value, so have fun Zero Cyclers, but if you are a Zero Cycler, then why are you even here? I don't think this will really be useful for you, but I appreciate you being here, at least. Anyway, that just translates to focusing on defeating the enemy Pommies as quickly as possible so you can use the allied Pommy's enhanced basic attack on King Pom Pom if it's still in Steamwash state. This second tip is only applicable to Phase 2. King Pom Pom's first attack in its 3-turn rotation allows allies to gain punchline on basic attack. Unless a given unit absolutely needs to use their skill, this is your chance to accelerate punchline generation at the start of the phase. The small amount of % max HP damage is just a nice bonus. Lastly, after King Pom Pom is forced out of Steamwash state in Phase 1, you can still be tactical with how you deal with the Pommies. Depending on a variety of factors, such as damage output, targeting type, remaining enemy HP, and allied Pommy charge, you can set up the allied Pommy to get 20 charge as soon as possible after the second phase starts. For example, if allied Pommy is at 15 charge and you have a multi-target ultimate ready that would defeat an enemy Pommy but not finish Phase 1 of the fight, it may be better to hold on to it until you are able to finish Phase 1. That way you can have the allied Pommy immediately remove one defense buff stack instead of wasting it on the tail end of Phase 1 where it is not needed. Now for the character section. The main ones of note are elation teams. Elation characters can generate their own punchline, so they don't need to wait for the Pommies to remove the boss's defense buffs. They also directly benefit from the punchline generated by the boss and Pommies, and as new units, they naturally keep up in general damage output. Aside from that, well, I don't think there's really anything else that is particularly good or bad for any specific team or archetype, and King Pom Pom only gets its buffs at the beginning of the phases, so once they're removed, anyone can go ham. It's not like the Ravaged Unconquerable with Finan where he just suffers for a myriad of reasons, or Sparksicon Official where any nihility that isn't the premium dot team doesn't even function. Don't get me wrong, the elation chill is obvious for King Pom Pom of course, but I hold the opinion that there isn't really a need for any specific character and that any strong team can perform reasonably well for this boss. According to Spiral Stats, several of the top performing teams aren't even elation at all. You're given 10 cycles, so a team would take a maximum of 5 cycles to pull their weight, and 1 or 2 of those would probably be spent on the first wave. I don't think viability discussion should really be held around zero cycling ability. Still, as is usually the case, for some older units, it's generally expected that you'd have some level of vertical investment for them to keep up in newer content. Like, if you have E2 Finan's premium team, well, have at it. Memory of Chaos does generally tend to be more brute forceable than the other modes. One more thing though, I should also make a disclaimer before I conclude this guide that I lack a good portion of the characters on my account, so there's a lot that I am unable to personally test and or verify. Spiral Stats for Memory of Chaos is also the least reliable for the endgame modes. The API is limited and currently there is no way to separate the clear times per wave or even per side, so just don't take what I say as the absolute truth. And that will be it for my in-depth guide on the Alloy Mechatron King Pom Pom boss encounter. If you've got any questions, feedback, or suggestions, consider leaving them down in the comments below. I wouldn't really consider myself an expert, and I'm open to discussion, especially since, like I just said, there's a lot of stuff I can't test by virtue of not having many of the characters in the first place. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, and or enjoy my other content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks for watching, good luck, and see you next time.